Okay, so today we're going to deep dive into something pretty interesting.
Mm, mm.
It's a piece that asks this question. Does Jesus really care about like the little details in our lives, like
Yeah,
our
yeah.
hopes and dreams and
Uh,
just our general well-being? And
mm,
it's a pretty thought-provoking question when you think about it, because it
yeah.
really challenges some assumptions about
Mm,
like how involved God is in our daily lives.
right.
So,
I mean, a lot of times we talk about faith and, spiritual matters,
yeah,
but this piece really hones in on the idea that Jesus cares about all the areas of our lives, not just the spiritual stuff.
absolutely. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
Right, like your family,
Yeah.
your work,
Yeah.
your sense of fulfillment, and even those really small desires that we have.
Yeah.
Um,
And the main message of this piece is a very clear, yes,
yes.
it's saying that Jesus isn't just some distant figure, but he's actively involved. And he wants to bless us in every area of our lives.
Hmm.
So, um,
It's a much wider view than just focusing on, spiritual salvation.
right.
It's saying that he cares about our total well-being.
Yeah. And I think that's where it gets really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
because for some people, that might be kind of a surprising idea,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Well, I think sometimes we get caught up in thinking that our everyday concerns were
Alright.
too small or insignificant for God to worry about.
Yeah,
Like,
especially with all the other problems in the world.
exactly.
You might think, why would God care about my little problem?
Boy, and this piece actually uses a really interesting example to illustrate that.
Oh, yeah.
It talks about praying for a pimple.
A pimple.
Yeah. And at first you might think, well, that's kind of silly,
Yeah, I could see that.
but the point is that it doesn't matter how small or insignificant something might seem.
Right.
If it matters to us,
Mm-hmm.
it matters to Jesus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he's not keeping score like, oh, this is worthy of my attention and this isn't.
Exactly.
And another thing that this piece emphasizes is that Jesus never ridicules or dismisses our concerns,
Right.
no matter how small they might seem to other people.
Yeah. It's kind of like how
Yeah.
sometimes in human relationships we might feel judged
Oh,
for
absolutely.
sharing our worries or problems.
Yeah, like people might say, oh, just get over it, or that's not a big deal.
Right, exactly.
But with Jesus, it's different.
Yeah.
There's no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
He's just there to listen and to help.
Absolutely.
Because if it's not about being judged or having our concerns dismissed,
Mm-hmm.
then how does this piece explain how we receive these blessings and this total well-being?
Well, it introduces this really important concept called unmerited favor.
Unmerited favor?
Yeah.
What's that?
So basically it means that we receive good things.
Okay.
Blessings help,
Mm.
even though we haven't necessarily earned them or deserved them.
Oh, interesting.
It's like a gift,
Yeah.
given freely out of love and generosity.
So it's not about trying to be perfect or good enough to earn God's favor.
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
This piece is very clear that it's God's goodness.
Right.
This unmerited favor that leads to a fulfilling life,
Interesting.
not our own efforts to be better.
So then how does this unmerited favor work in practice?
Well, the piece goes on to list a bunch of challenges that this favor can help us overcome.
Okay, like what?
Things like lack,
Uh-huh.
addictions,
Yeah.
fears,
Right.
broken relationships, even sickness.
Wow. So it covers a lot.
It really does.
And it suggests that this favor can bring about positive changes,
Yeah,
like protection, healing, provision, restoration.
exactly. It's about God working in our lives
Yeah.
to bring about wholeness and blessing.
So to sum it all up, this piece presents a view of Jesus
Mm-hmm.
who isn't just focused on our spiritual lives in some distant future,
Right.
but he's deeply involved in our lives right now,
Yes.
in all the details, big and small. And this involvement comes through his freely given unmerited favor.
That's the core of it.
And it's a perspective that really emphasizes a very personal and caring God
Mm-hmm.
who is invested in our complete well-being.
Yeah.
I think it's a really powerful message,
Me too.
and it leaves us with something to think about.
What's that?
Well, if we really believe that our desires and challenges matter to a higher power,
Mm-hmm.
how might that change the way we approach our lives?
That's a great question.
How might it affect our prayers,
Yeah.
our decisions,
Mm-hmm.
even our outlook on the world?
It's definitely something to ponder.
Yeah, I think it's a perspective that can bring a lot of hope and encouragement.
I agree.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive,
It's been great talking about this.
and we'll see you next time.
See you then.